an octopus tattoo that moves all around, a time-lost hotel, and being lost in the present but finding yourself in the past. The White Octopus Hotel by Alexandra Bell is weird and magical and strange and enchanting and so many things. So we follow our main character, Eve. Eve works for like this auction house. She's a very depressed person. She doesn't have a whole lot of friends. And a lot of this comes from earlier on in her life, the death of her sister when Eve was 4 years old. Her little sister was a toddler, got hit by a car, and this kind of tore their family apart and just did a number on Eve. Like I said, she doesn't have a whole lot of friends, and she works at this auction house. So one day, this older gentleman comes to see her. He seems kind of familiar to Eve. Says his name is Max Everly. And she's like, well, that's kind of crazy because Max Everly was a composer that she absolutely loved. And this was like a musician that meant a lot to her. That got her through some really hard times. And it's weird that this person would have that name because if they were still alive, they'd be like 100 plus years old. So anyways, this guy comes and he talks to Eve and he knows it's her birthday. He seems to know stuff about her that's kind of weird. And then he gives her this figurine of an octopus, which is weird because, you know, she has this octopus tattoo that moves all around and she's like almost recognizes it. It looks very familiar. Everything feels familiar. She feels like she knows this person. This is really strange. And as she's walking him out to leave, the man ends up passing away and his last words are like, I hope you'll come back to the hotel. She doesn't really know what that means. She's like, that was flipping weird, but it was so weird that with the coincidences, and it seemed like maybe he knew who she was and this, that, and the other. At some point in time, she starts asking about this like octopus thing, and then she goes to France one year and she finds this tea set that has like a very similar motif on it with the octopus. It kind of matches like that figurine that she had, and she's like, that's really weird. And she asks this woman that she works with if she knows anything about this, or like, because the woman kind of specializes in an area that might be familiar where this could have come from, this tea set. And the woman's like, I have no idea, you know, there's no real markings on the back, this, that, and the other. She's like, but there is this whole myth in our line of work about this hotel called the White Octopus Hotel. And she tells her a little bit about it, and that one of the people that they had worked with might have known a little bit more about it. And so eventually she goes and visits this guy and he tells her about it. He seems to know quite a bit, and he has this key supposedly to room 27 of the White Octopus Hotel. He's like, that room doesn't seem to exist, this, that, and the other. And as Eve has been kind of digging into this, because she becomes almost obsessed with it, like, why is like this weird coincidence of stuff happening and this, that, and the other. And then she also has these ghosts that kind of follow her around. Like, there's this little fuzzy rabbit that follows her around that seems to be like almost maybe the ghost of her sister who had passed on. And so she's haunted by this. There's a lot that's haunting her here in the present, until maybe she's able to find her way into the past. And the White Octopus Hotel too, there's this whole mythos about it that like there's objects there that are magical and that can turn back time or right a wrong. And so she gets it into her head at some point. She finds out about that the White Octopus Hotel had this like writing paper that you could write a letter to your younger self, like back in time. And she's thinking like, well, maybe if I can find this hotel and find a piece of this paper, if this is real, I could prevent my sister from having died. She follows this weird trail and eventually finds the hotel, and it's all decrepit and broke down. She kind of like looks around in it and stuff's falling apart. And yeah, room 27 doesn't seem to exist, but maybe it does. Maybe she finds it. This book is so magical. And it's funny, when I picked it up and I just really liked the synopsis. The name Alexandra Bell did not even click into my brain, which it should have, because there's another book that I read by this author that was called The Winter Garden, and it's so flippin' magical. Like, it's in the lines of like magical, like The Night Circus. It's one of those things that you're like, this is the most wildly imagined, beautiful, dark, and weird book. And that comes across too in this White Octopus Hotel book. It's awesome. I absolutely loved it. It was a super surprise. So every year I do a top 10 of my favorite horror reads and my favorite fantasy reads. So the White Octopus Hotel, I can guarantee you, will be in my top 10 fantasy reads. And then probably the rest of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, let's be honest. Although we're only going to count that as one, because that wouldn't be fair to just be like, books 1 through 8 are all the Dungeon Crawler Carls, and then the White Octopus Hotel. That'd be dumb. Anyway, this book's awesome. If you like weird, magical, dark, tragic, emotional, heartfelt, romance, this book has it all. It pulled me in immediately. It's weird. It's a mystery. There's so much going on. And the magical elements to it are truly fantastic. This is an author that I need to read more of her books. So this is the second book I've read by Alexandra Bell. The question is, which one did I like more? I don't know. They're both really good. Like, I love The Winter Garden, and it's just such a different story. And this one, oh yeah, the story is like heartfelt and sad and just so many things and so many emotions that are going on. And then you have all this magical stuff happening, like weird things, like there's an octopus in the wall, and if you stare in one of the mirrors too long, your reflection starts to like come to life and might do stuff that you don't want it to do. And just all kinds of weird things, rooms that you can't find unless like you're there with your soulmate, or other rooms that maybe exist that aren't supposed to, basements that only appear in the nighttime, and just all kinds of strange stuff. So if any of that sounds good to you, I would highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.